Okay, I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Start with a roll call. McKee here, Lanterman. Here. Friedrich.
Present.
Varenkamp.
I'm here.
Nichols.
Here.
Perfect, everyone is here. I'd like to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Agenda approval. Looks like from staff we had, at least initially, 13A was added or modified.
We have a couple other. So 6B
6B
was revised to include a missing page. 6H, we had to change lane to avenue in the title. Resolution for 6I should be 202636. We missed a 0 in there. That's been corrected. And then we added a section to the agenda for consent agenda items removed for consideration. That was item 7.
7. Okay, anything from council? I would suggest maybe we move at least the ones that stood out to me, 6H and 6J from consent onto that new category of consent agenda items removed for consideration.
Procedurally, Mr. Mayor, I think we still do that under the consent agenda when we get to that point. So it would still happen the same. It's just we're dropping them when we reach the consent agenda.
Oh.
So procedurally, it still looks the same. Just for our minutes, it helps us frame the minutes better for the future.
Okay. Then scratch that last part. Anything from council?
Motion to approve the agenda.
You said, oh, sorry. I just want to confirm. You said H and J?
We'll talk
Scratch.
about
So when we get to
sorry.
consent agenda,
Sorry.
Mayor's screwing stuff up.
Yep.
We'll clean it up here.
well, it's my fault. We did change the format, and so obviously there's some questions. So I wanted to clarify that procedurally nothing changes.
I was just preparing, that's all.
Sounds good. Anything else? Otherwise, we had motion second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Presentations, none. Open forum. Okay.
At this point, if there was anyone that wanted to speak on anything that is not on the agenda, this would be your opportunity to come forward. You'd fill out a public comment card, bring it to me, and then you would have 3 to 5 minutes in order to share anything that is not on the agenda. I have received no cards, letters, or emails, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anyone want to speak on that? Nope. Okay, then we will move on to consent agenda, which consists of items 6A through 6O. Does anyone want to pull anything?
I'd like to pull H.
Okay, H, 6H, Mark,
And I'd like to pull J.
6J, Michelle,
I'll do I and K since we're on the.
I and K. Okay. I, K, Dean. Anything else? All right, then I will entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items 6A through G and 6L through O.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, on to the first pulled item, 6H. And do we want to start with staff of anything, or?
Do you want to do that?
Good evening. Can you hear me? Sorry.
Yep.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Zeke Peters. I am representing the Community Development Department with Landform. I work with Kendra Lindahl, who is unfortunately unable to be in person this evening, but will be available online. This site plan amendment and variances for landscaping was presented to the Planning Commission on April, I forget the date, 2nd. And at that meeting, they discussed the same report that's in front of you today with the details presented, and they recommended 4-0 for denial. They were presented with an option to deny both, approve one and not the other, or vice versa, or approve both of them. And we're asked to provide any findings of fact, and we're provided with some findings of fact for either or. So the only addition to the report or the presentation is the resolution that's presented in front of you. and the resolution lays out findings of fact for denial of both variances, which in turn would deny the site plan amendment, which needs the variances to be approved administratively. The applicant is present at the meeting tonight, and I'm available for any specific questions, as is other members of staff.
And resolution, you mean in the packet?
Yes, the resolution in the packet.
And just to clarify, the requests that were initially the requests are the same requests for variance?
Yes, the requests have not changed. There are two variances, and I will read them from the report as well if you would.
That'd be great.
Yes. I can put this down. Be safe. Variance number 1 is found on page 90 of the entire packet. It is a variance from Appendix C of the zoning ordinance of the Northeast District Plan and Design Guideline landscape standards that require mulch, and from the City Corcoran standard detail plates Land-2, Land-3, and Land-4, which require shredded hard mulch to be used in all developments. And variance number 2 was a variance from Appendix C of the zoning ordinance, again, the Northeast District Plan and Design Guidelines, which list approved tree and shrub species. The applicant is using a non-native species that was not included in the list as part of the required plantings. And the site plan amendment is just for location and species changes, as it's required as part of the variance.
Gotcha. I do have a quick question regarding email that came in recently. I guess I'm confused as to, is there still an issue of required plantings not being met?
The previous inspection that was conducted on August 29th, 2025, with a follow-up letter sent on September 12th, 2025, which is included in the packet, there were other issues unrelated to these two variance items that would also need to be addressed. Just including missing plantings, plantings in wrong locations, or plantings that had died, which is pretty common in most landscape inspections.
For sure. Okay. Questions for him or staff? Dean?
I thought you pulled it, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh, sure. You want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hi, Mr. Benjamin. How are you today?
I'm doing good, Mark. How are you?
Good, good. I'm glad that you're.
Yeah, if you want to come up to the mic.
No, that's me.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Mr. Benjamin, the council is in receipt of several emails from you,
Correct.
including one dated April 8th, which contains very serious allegations against Kendra Lindahl.
Go on.
I want to be clear, this council takes allegations of unethical and unprofessional conduct very seriously. And I want to get to the bottom of these allegations, as I'm sure you would like to as well.
Were there any questions about what we were talking about, or are we starting here?
Well, I have questions for you about the allegations against
Go right ahead.
Kendra Lindahl. Is that okay?
That's just fine.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask you a series of direct questions. Please answer each one specifically. When possible, please answer yes or no. We're on a limited time, you know.
Can I ask one question prior?
Yes,
When were these questions prepared?
excuse me?
These questions are prepared by you?
Yeah, they were prepared. by
When were
me
they prepared?
Today. Why?
Okay, I'm just curious, because I normally, you guys get to see what I'm presenting.
I'm going to cut you off.
Sure,
I'd like to ask you questions,
go for it.
okay? I am going to ask you to answer yes or no when possible. So, do you agree that serious allegations should, when appropriate, be investigated? Yes or no?
Yes.
Please let me know the exact statement or action made by Ms. Lindahl that you believe was unethical. What did she say?
So I was really, first off, where are you pulling this from? This question specifically, where are you pulling it from? Which email?
Okay. Can you answer my question?
Nope, I need to know the context, because I didn't send you an email from Kendra.
Are you, what's that?
I did not send you an email from Kendra, so can.
I don't know what,
I did not send you an email
okay.
about any allegations whatsoever. So where is this question coming from is my
Are you going to
question.
answer my questions, yes or no?
Will you answer mine?
Are you going to answer my questions, yes or no?
If we're not answering each other's questions, we don't have to.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to deny the applicant's submittal.
Just to clarify, the motion would be to deny the resolution?
Yes.
Based on the basis of,
I'll let you know.
thank you, thank you.
Mr. Thames, do you have an opinion on the feasibility of that?
Mayor, members, the resolution in front of you tonight is supported by staff's original recommendation and unanimous vote from the Planning Commission. The resolution was prepared by staff with respect to those findings, so any motion to approve that denial resolution would be for that finding. If there's any other inquiry or fact finding you want to do over and above that, typically these are found in the consent agenda based on their unanimous vote and alignment with staff opinion. But if there's additional fact finding, you can do it. If you have sufficient information to render that decision, you can do that now.
Okay. 1 second, Mark, I just want to make sure from the rest of the council, does anyone have any questions on the variances or site plan or other issues?
I guess I have a question.
Would it be okay if we turn to those first and then went back to them? Sure.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
So I guess my question after reading through some of the documents
Sure.
is, it seems like in 2023, there was a preliminary landscaping map that was issued.
Correct.
Did that map have the correct information on it regarding mulch and species?
So I was not informed that there was any issue with any landscaping plan until when I stated in the email that I sent to you guys in May of 2025. Just so you are aware.
Okay, but that doesn't answer my question.
Okay.
The original plan, that was the landscaping plan, did that have the correct information on it?
It had, to the best of our knowledge at the time. We were not informed that there was any issue with that plan until May of 2025 when my landscapers were scheduled to show up.
So when did you find out that you needed to have wood mulch instead of stone mulch?
This came about that it was, that not that I needed wood mulch, that stone mulch was not allowed, which I still think is very, very gray. When my landscape inspection was issued, reviewed, and issues were brought to my attention at that point,
Which was in,
2025.
okay.
Which would have been, that's trackable as well, and that would be from the email correspondence that you do not have that I'm happy to provide, that shows we have a number of issues with your, that's normal language, it sounds worse than it is, a number of issues with your landscaping as presented, basically. She words it much better than I do.
I'm not trying to understand our issues with the landscaping.
The city of Corcoran had an issue.
Oh, fine.
That's when it was
Okay.
brought to my attention.
Gotcha.
Now, sure, there is some vague wording stated definitely within the guidelines for Northeast, okay? There is nothing stated that it says granite mulch is not permitted. Also, like I said, in my presentations, I have approved landscaped plans and quoted that don't show mulch whatsoever called out. Initially, wood mulch was called out on one of the sets of plans. There was one area where it was called out that isn't accurate. There is wood mulch on my massive development. There are a few areas that's undeniably impractical to have wood mulch from a basic common sense standpoint, that there are not, to answer your question.
Sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm just reading through the resolution again from 2023.
Yeah, take your time.
Ask a question kind of associated with it, Mr. Mayor, may I? My question is for Kendra, but she's not here, so it's.
She's online.
Either one. My big thing on this whole thing, and in every development that has happened in Corcoran since I've been here, is there is an approved plan, which includes landscape and everything, before there's ever a shovel in the ground. Is that incorrect or correct? Anybody could, Dwight, Zeke, Kendra?
So the final plat was approved with Resolution 2023-85 with conditions K and J, and then it came forward for a change for 2024-38 with condition number 2. That development contract outlines exactly what you're talking about in terms of the requirements.
Thank you, City Administrator Tobin. The other thing that I'm puzzled about is we have a northeast standard of landscaping, and that was pretty much new when this whole thing started, if I remember right, or it was a year older than that, correct?
It was relatively new in terms of discussion of finalization.
Yeah,
So it was-
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Councilmember Van yeah, I believe it was, the Northeast District Plan was adopted in 2023, and
Right.
this project came in 2024.
Right. So I don't understand why there's a dispute or anything, as long as that plan, which was agreed to by the city and was agreed to by the applicant back then, correct? They also, and I'm sorry, I had to breathe there for a second.
You're good.
They also have the right to plant more things then, but there's very specific needs for the landscape, the way we're doing things, the way we ask. And a big one is the headlight screening facing Steep Road, correct? That needs to be, there's no berm there, if I remember right. We agreed on no berm at the time of all of this. We agreed at, I forget what shrubbery, trees and stuff, which would be year-round screening for headlights. If that's not correct, please tell me. So I have no reason why any of these, I have no understanding on why any of this stuff is second guessed or anything, and it's really not a surprise because it was all agreed to at the time before shovels were in the ground, so.
And I'd love to speak to that.
I do want to say, and I do not want to get interrupted, I will not be nice.
I don't, that sounds like a
I
threat.
will not be nice.
What does that mean?
I want no interruptions, I want
Just
no
let him finish,
conversation.
That's fine, I can
Okay.
finish, but it's a weird thing to say.
So again, the emails that I'm seeing, I'm not spending a lot of time because I feel it's a waste of time. We've got documentation, we've got everything, and everything was agreed to. If at any time there was a second guess or a question, can I plant this in place of this, a conversation could have came and then it could have came back to us for whatever, correct? But instead, this stuff was just planted without any regards to the actual plan. Was there any questions ever about the landscape plan? I'm not asking for anything. I mean it. I am just a council member. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to
Well, you're staring at me.
our
Okay.
staff.
Okay,
I am a neighbor. I am a resident of this city.
and?
I have the mic now.
I didn't say a
haven't
word. I
asked
raised my
you
hand, and you
anything.
stared at me and said, "You don't implicate or start something, and then say that, and then wash your hands with it.
Am I
Be an
asking-
adult."
Am I asking things properly or not?
Dean, you're fine.
Appreciate you.
Please stop interrupting. We'll let you know when it's your turn to talk. If there's questions directed to you, I will let you know.
I apologize for responding. You're right.
Thank you. Dean, continue.
So again, the emails about the different plannings and those things, I understand all of those things, and it's all stuff that anybody can plant more of, but we still have a standard. Is that correct? So so we aren't that hard, we're just, there's things that are supposed to be there that aren't there, right? And our denial is, we still want things, the way the plan was, we want mulch in and not rock. And that's everybody that's up there, all the new buildings that are going up there are following the northeast guidance, correct?
Councilmember Bearcamp,
Yes.
can I help with that?
Please.
As these concerns about the landscaping plan came up, I walked with Mr. Benjamin across his property back in October of 2025 and got to visit the site and see what was going on. And we identified four areas of concern at that time. And one of those was the mulch identified, and I made him aware that by the standards, to your point, it would have to replace, or he would have to request a variance.
Okay.
And so that's how we've come here today. So he has followed the process that I instructed him to back in October. So that's important to note. Part of the reason we're here is because he asked to meet. I met with him, and I gave him suggestions on ways that he could handle, like you said, if he's looking for an exception, this would be the correct process to follow an exception. But also, the Planning Commission and the council has the discretion in order to interpret the exception and how they want to respond to the variance. So that was one. The other one was in regards to the hydrangeas, which were there. I made him aware that he can request a variance potentially for them to stay, would still have to meet all the requirements of all the other plantings. So it would be in addition to that.
Can I clarify something?
Yes, sir.
He doesn't necessarily need a variance for them to stay, but he needs to satisfy the headlight screening.
Right.
Well,
Is that
because
correct?
of where they're located, yes. Yes, so if they meet the headline screening requirements, where it's at, that's not my bailiwick. I don't know.
Themselves are allowed, it's just, doesn't.
So you can go above and beyond what's required.
Right, doesn't count towards the
Yes.
planting requirement.
But I
and the
believe
screening.
because it doesn't meet the plan that was discussed, that would be the request for variance, because it wouldn't be in the location of what was planned. Is that a correct statement?
That is correct, but also there was not enough of other plants that they replaced that could count towards the minimum requirements of the district.
So back to the point that I was saying, as long as all of the requirements were met, could add that above and beyond the requirements.
Yes, and that is included in the staff report that the hydrangeas can remain. It's using them for both screening and to count towards the required minimum plantings of the district.
And then there was another area in which there were plantings of concern in the Cedar Lane right-of-way, and we discussed that and a potential workaround for the plantings in the Cedar Lane right-of-way. Mr. Benjamin had explained that it was his desire to plant them in order to provide a screen between him and his neighbors to the west. And then there were quite a few dead or dying plants. He was actively watering plants on the northwest corner, trying to keep them alive. And he had shared that he was working, I forget the name of the contractor, but they were in the process of replacing dead and dying plants. To my knowledge, Zeke, we have not gone back out there to do an inventory since this.
Yes, we do not conduct re-inspections until we have a request from the applicant, and we have not received one to this date.
So the last information would be of when I visited the site in October in terms of have any other plants died, have the ones that died been replaced, and then the other response is he submitted a request for variance for those two other conditions.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Are you done, Jeremy?
Go ahead.
Okay.
We'll get back.
Zeke, do you have, if you don't have it, that's okay, but do you have the specific language for the Northeast District that states it needs to be a specific type of mulch?
Yes, we'll pull up the language. To my knowledge and from what is quoted in here, it is naturally occurring ground covers, and the landscape details specifically call out hardwood mulch for the engineering guidelines.
Okay.
And so that's what was used. Those were provided in earlier plans. Often when people submit adjusted plans or site plan amendments, if they don't include the full detail sheets that were included on the other plans, it's assumed that those aren't being amended. So that's why we still use that as part of the variance request, those detail sheets.
Okay, thank you. So I guess my question, back to you, sir, would be, as a developer in that area,
Mm-hmm.
did you review with your landscaper and review and look at what was required in that district? for landscaping? That would be one of the first things, like, I think I would do is like, I
Fair
want to
question,
make sure
for
I've got
sure.
all of these things taken care of to make sure that I'm following what I need to follow.
Very good question. The answer to that question is, my original landscape plan had a whole plethora of plants that they wanted changed, that they said nothing about when I got approval. And that's a fact. Speaking about those required, we need to meet a required species. Those are also met, so my hydrangeas are actually specifically only above and beyond. He is 100% correct, because I believe in the truth and facts. They do call out hardwood mulch. Where you're using mulch in certain areas, they want to see hardwood mulch. They want it for sustainability. We won't talk about the forest I preserve, the prairie. I've planted 150 trees on my residential commercial property. Sustainability is beyond met. My original plan, in that email, if you were to take the time to read it, would have found that all of the requirements were met. The timeline in which this all went down, as well as the fact that the specifications are still met to this day, and the hydrangeas are an addition, as far as the mulch goes, there was no request for any change or plan whatsoever until May of 2025, when my landscapers were showing up. The only one we're based off of specifically calls out the plants that they have a problem with. Fine. Okay, I can't have some of these plants. Fine, no problem. All of these, in some cases, were downgraded, right? Mulch was changed. Snow, dog urine, wind blowing the mulch across look at my lot. I've got no lot north, I've got no lot south. I'm on 101, I'm on Stieg Road. Stieg Road's going to go up through 2 wind tunnels, and you want mulch everywhere? And there's not even a specification on what the mulch is. But we're mad at the upgraded granite that makes sense, where the dog pee won't absorb, where the snow won't push it off. And I've shown you pictures. If you were to read the email, you'd see that the mulch is pushed down the hill, and it was. I think that I have faith that the standards may be relooked at in this one specific small area. And it's a lot of information. I get it. I get why we're generalizing, for sure. I have faith that in the future, granite mulch that matches approved City Beautiful rock will be approved in the future when it's practical. I have granite mulch on my entrance where the dogs walk by. Inside, on the inner side of my parking lot. On the outer side, I have wood mulch, and I've met every species requirement. The hydrangeas are above and beyond. The landscaping is upgraded and for a practical matter. I've shown pictures in that email that show the wood mulch failed. I think we're going to reconsider this. I was advised not to change the standards. Won't even look at me. Advised not to change the standards. I was advised that this is a less swimming upstream to go this route. So fine, I went this route, okay?
Mr. Benjamin?
Yes, sorry.
Can I just comment?
Go ahead.
Things? So one, I just wanted to comment in terms of timeline, as I'm aware of it, in terms of a rush. The city actually didn't receive your plan from your contractor until June 30th of 2025. And then we scheduled an inspection. Usually the property owner schedules the inspection. But
I wasn't informed, and Ram wasn't
well,
either.
it's part of the development plan.
Our mistake.
In the language.
Sure.
But so came, and when the inspection occurred on August 29th, I actually discovered that the landscaping that was executed didn't actually comply with the plan that was approved.
No, I'm aware of that. I'm saying the plan itself wasn't, there was no issue with the original plan until May of 2025 when my landscapers were showing up. I understand that afterwards there was an issue with what was going on.
So I'm saying June 30th, 2025 is when the city received your plan. They processed it quickly
It
in order
wasn't
to provide
requested
feedback.
prior to that.
I'm
It wasn't
sorry?
requested prior to that. We had submitted a plan prior to that.
To my knowledge, actually, we had, correct me if I'm wrong, Pete.
with other developments in Corcoran, often there are conditions of approval that are listed in the resolutions that approve such developments, or in this case, the conditional use for the use. Resolution 2023-85, which was the resolution approving the conditional use permit for this property, had a condition under number 12 LIII, among as many others referring to a refined and updated landscape plan was to be provided by the applicant as a condition of approval. And we can read these items, but number 3 reads, specific species must be identified. No more than 33% of the required trees can be the same species, and species must comply with the planting list in Appendix C, which for reference is the Northeast District guidelines once again. So as with many developments, and this one included, landscape plans aren't always perfect when they're approved for their conditional use permits or plats, but they are listed as conditions of approval and need to be addressed by the applicant prior to inspections.
Can I ask a question, Jay?
Yep.
Or object? The condition of approval was that we needed to get a acceptable plan in place. When does the building permit get issued? Does that plan need to be received and approved before the permit is authorized?
That is before the resolution of furthermore prior to issuance of a building permit. So other items are required prior, but this may not be required, and that's usually reviewed by the separate group that reviews the building permits.
Okay. That might be something we want to think about as a process modification to avoid this kind of situation in the future. Because I'm sure if you had had, 6 months of notice.
For sure.
That your plan wasn't acceptable, you would have made reasonable effort to.
And had time to do so in a better manner than scrambling, pushing. My contractor's got schedules too, like he pushed off a month, so it means he's got to push all of his work back a month, right? These are real people problems.
You can't just change it.
Right, and I get what you're saying, that's true, but I mean, I think it's fair to say there was some gray area in here, like, I'm a reasonable person, I feel like that's a reasonable thing to say.
Mayor?
Yes.
So for the council's benefit, I think one point of confusion here might be what Mr. Benjamin just alluded to, the gray area. As I understand it, there are some gray areas as far as what can be permitted, what can be extended or allowed as a part of that site plan review. It's my understanding from talking to planning that all of that authority was extended. What they could allow, they did allow. The problem came down to a couple of fundamental disagreements with what the code standards were, right? So the discrepancies related to the mulch and the placement break that we're talking about had to be addressed either with different plantings or a change in the code. And so Mr. Benjamin was given two choices. You either have to seek an amendment to the code or seek a variance to it. He elected the latter. We of course have to meet those standards. That's what you're asked to review or to with the recommendation of the Planning Commission in mind. So I think the problem that we have is, and he's alluded to, I've made other improvements to the property that would support sustainability. I have no doubt you did. It's just a matter of there are elements to this that don't and can't comply as the code is presently written, unless you already need a variance from it or an amendment to it. The application was for the variance, so it's not a consideration of what other things on the property or how does that affect sustainability. It's whether can he meet the practical difficulties test for the variance on his property as to these two aspects.
Which I also believe I can do separately.
And that's for the council. I just wanted
Yeah,
to frame
for
the
sure.
issue for the council.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, we still do have a motion on the floor that needs to be addressed.
Okay. I thought that was done. If we do want to have the motion, we can vote on it and then figure out where discussion goes from there.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I feel like there might be a mechanism for the applicant to meet the variance standards if he takes some time to revise it and focus more on the impracticality of the wood mulch due to the wind issues that his property is prone to. I didn't see that argued in what we were reviewing. And then a replacement might be more appropriate, just for this specific location where you have that higher wind velocity, less screening available.
So what process would you suggest, Michelle?
Is it possible for him to resubmit his justification for the variance?
Mayor and members, the application has gone through a public hearing at the planning commission, reviewed with the narrative that's given to every applicant in a similar situation. Effectively, what you're asking about is an application reset. Usually that's a new application.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a new 60-day rule that applies to it, right? There's a new staff review of the new justification. There's obviously an expense that comes with that as well. So you can consider all aspects that may affect the factors that you're considering for the practical difficulties test. We can offer any testimony you have related to that presently. As far as revetting it, I think you're looking at a new application now.
Michelle, did you have something?
I was just going to add on to Councilmember Nichols that if that were the case, could you also then work in maybe some additional plantings behind those hydrangeas so it does meet that threshold?
And that's where I'm confused, because it seems like there's a difference between applicant and staff saying, there's the hydrangeas, there's these other plants. One is saying that the other plants meet the requirement. Sounds like staff is saying, no. They do not.
And I won't speak for you on this, Zeke, but my understanding is the plants that are presently there do not meet the requirements. But that doesn't mean they have to be removed.
Right.
They could be supplemented with plantings
Right.
that do, and you could still retain the current plantings. Or you could replace it. It would be his choice. But as it presently exists, this is the reason for the variance request, is because that is one of the.
And it can be supplemented
Yeah.
without approving that variance.
Correct, yes, that would be a way to comply with it, you wouldn't need to do that. But I think what his ask is to have that be sufficient, which would
Right.
require a code amendment, code variance, to supplement the plantings, as I understand it, would not, and that was one of the recommendations I believe from staff. The mulch is trickier,
Yep.
right, because it's just not prohibited in the district according to the code. So you need a path to it. It's either code amendment or what we're looking at now, variance standards. It has to meet practical difficulties. There's something about the property, and the problem here that's probably of greatest import is uniqueness of the property that makes this property need that deviation from the code that's not based on something created by the applicant or
Right.
economic reasons.
Okay. I'll give you a brief minute if you had some.
Appreciate that. I'd love to speak on both. So one of the standards we're talking about is, the only thing that's left really is screening and the height of screening, which is actually met. The only other option, and again, every planting is guaranteed by my contractor, whether you have the 1-year warranty started or not, because, and I submitted this evidence as well. The invoice stating everything's guaranteed for a year, so anything that died doesn't matter. We have all of the requirements met, the species are met, so now we're way over our basic. Okay, screening is met also.
Can I ask you a question? How is the screening met?
With the hydrangeas, there was an allegation that they weren't tall enough, but they are. And I did supply that today, some evidence of it. Sorry.
I was just going to say,
No, go ahead.
I think in another 3 to 4 years, they would be the appropriate height, but from what I could tell in the pictures, they were very low to the ground.
And you're right, Michelle, that's 100% true, but that goes for all plantings, that's standard. We don't expect, our 8-foot, 18-foot, 40-foot maple tree to be 40 feet when we put it in the ground. So you're 100% right, but that is, without rewriting everything, I think that's standard, that you put something that is at somewhat established, just like grass doesn't pass grass until it's established, right? I think that you're 100% right, but I don't think that because it's premature, it has to start somewhere. Separately,
Doesn't it, so that it tries to
Right.
cover it?
that could be something.
So with hydrangeas, there's 2 issues associated, just to clarify once again, counting towards the minimum requirement and the screening related to one another because of where they're located. Staff does not feel, I'm not a landscape architect, but we do have ones that we've worked with. Hydrangeas are not typically considered to be screening plants due to seasonal dieback. The definition for screening in the code is for year-round screening. Yes, they'll leave twigs and sticks when the leaves fall off, but part of health of hydrangeas is to cut them back completely every year as they grow. And so for the intent of the ordinance, staff does not feel that they would supply the screening necessary.
If I could just finish, I hear what he's saying. gone through a full winter and the approved screening plants, there is zero difference. So the reality is, there is no difference. The ones that are approved in this one specific area facing the vacant lot, it just doesn't, the reality is, come walk my lot. I'll show you. We'll just talk about what we actually see and the actual truth. Now, as far as addressing a unique situation, I am the only development on 101. I have acres behind me, wide open prairie, preserved. The lot across the street, not developed. And Stieg Road is gonna go east-west. I addressed that in the same email I sent earlier. It is unique. I did not create a wind tunnel there. Mulch will blow. I did not create the fact that urine smells worse in wood mulch, clearly degrades it, et cetera. I addressed all this. So, completely agree. But the narrative actually was said by me, specifically what you're requesting. It wasn't presented. I found out the day before that my dad was dying for the city planning, and I thought this was more of a formality because these were so minor on an $8 million project at this point. Having confidence in the staff that I walked with, I thought, my mistake. I did not expect a narrative in the contrary, but I'm here now to present what was there. And in the packet, you'll find that same narrative
Mr.
that addresses
Benjamin,
those things.
There was not a narrative to the contrary. I've watched the video. I was not present at the meeting.
No, I wasn't there to give the narrative. It was presented.
No, but you just,
I'm
what
sorry.
you stated was you said that, in fact, the narrative was to the contrary. I just wanted to set the record straight that staff let your words that you had submitted speak for themselves. I just wanted to be clear on that.
I
Staff did not
apologize.
say-
How about this? I wasn't there to present my side of the narrative that addressed specifically what you're requesting, that we would be beyond and past this detail. I was not there to present my narrative. That was my mistake. And that's why we're here, and that's why we're saying there, that's why you're asking about that narrative, because I wasn't there to present it. It would still be the same written narrative that's in the packet tonight, and that was there that night, just nobody spoke on that side of it. My mistake.
We did have a motion on the floor. My mistake. I was like going to on it. My apologies, Mark. So Mark did make that motion. Is there a second?
I just seconded it.
Okay. Second, Camp. Any discussion?
I'm still not quite there yet.
Yep.
Okay. Another question, and I don't know if this is possible, Mr. Thames. Is there a way for us to work with Mr. Benjamin on correcting these things as we go forward? So say that we can't come to an agreement right now with where we're at. It seems to me, what happens if we deny the variance? What is the next steps, I guess? That would help me understand.
Yep, so Mayor and Council, the determination here is whether or not there would be any material deviation allowed on the property from the code standards. If none is permitted, then he is held to his original, the code standards and his site plan approval, or an amendment that would comply. So you would have to remove the items that are not in compliance and replace them with items that are. Right? As we discussed, for the hydrangea plantings and things like that could involve supplemental plantings to be in compliance, but it would, the decision point is whether or not he must comply with those standards.
How about
Okay.
like the right-of-way plantings? Is that part of any of the specific requests, or? 'Cause I feel like that could be accomplished with an agreement that was laid out.
Yeah, so the right-of-way plantings are not included in this request. As mentioned in the inspection report included in the packet, the applicant would be allowed to maintain them, but they would need to enter into an encroachment and maintenance agreement with the city in case that road were to be developed in the future.
And we were able to resolve that when I walked the ground with Mr. Benjamin, and I came back and talked with staff because he owns that property, and so until he decides to develop that property, if he wanted to develop that property, it would be necessary to remove them.
So Mayor, that's an example of one of the items of flexibility that the staff can exercise that they did.
Mhm.
You know, if they wanted to extend that, we can put things in the right of way via the encroachment agreement. where they hit a wall is when they hit a code standard. This is not allowed by code. We need a path around that.
Yep.
It has to go through the council in one form or another. That's the decision point tonight.
Okay, I have another question. How deep is the mulch? How deep does it go? Like, what is the depth of the mulch that's there?
So we've got about 4 inches roughly of granite mulch over landscape fabric.
Okay.
And then we have whatever, the border, et cetera.
So would it be acceptable if he removed half, like 2 inches of the rock mulch and replaced it with wood mulch? Not having to remove all of the wood or all of the hard rock mulch? Because then you still have your wood mulch on top, which is, maybe that's pointless because it's
The
about
only-
environmental and,
The only
I'm
diffi-
stuck on the mulch. I'm stuck on the mulch.
The only difficulty is the dogs are still gonna pee on it, it's still gonna blow across my entire, I'm in a wind tunnel, it's unique to my site. And I do believe that you guys are gonna relook at this granite thing, I do. I was told to go this route, I felt it was this path of least resistance. To redo that mulch is thousands and thousands of dollars, and it is undeniably a downgrade across the board. Besides the practical difficulties, unique, that are site-specific, that are also in the narrative that I provided, but did not present on the planning commission, which was my mistake.
I'll corroborate that dog urine on wood mulch does smell pretty strongly. I would be willing to entertain a variance on the mulch piece, but I think the plantings to not to replace, but to supplement the hydrangeas with something that would provide year-round screening is still appropriate.
Okay, so that would be more of a splitting up the variances. So I guess if we wanted to get to a vote on that, the process would be to deny, or to vote down this motion, then we can bring up another motion,
To accept a portion of the
or
request
to
for
vote
variance.
on that.
Yeah.
And then from there, we can figure out if, bring up that similar motion if it doesn't pass, or however that would be a motion to reconsider if it gets to, that's several steps on the road potentially.
If we don't make a motion or a second to the motion, does the motion fail?
There was a second.
There was a second?
Yeah.
Oh,
Councilor Van Camp.
That's right, okay.
Okay, so does everyone have, does that make sense to everyone? Okay.
More
So-
discussion real quick.
Yep.
If we do this, we're doing it for one. We need to relook at the standards for the northeast area. And we don't do knee-jerk very well on things like this. We had all of these same conversations around Nelson property, the large building to the north and stuff. They've all conformed with the northeast standards and everything else. And I do not understand how we can vary that in a variance in this short a time.
I think it comes down, for me, it's a judgment call for the council to make. The nature of the business and the dogs present, I think, are a big part of it. My dog goes in mulch all of the time, and it carries, and it persists. And that's not happening in any other place in the Northeast District that I'm aware of. So that makes it unique to the site. And then the wind layout might be different as well. Have they complained at any of the other large commercial businesses of wind knocking their mulch off of the site and making it?
In the northeast corner, they're not open for business yet.
And they skip it altogether.
And then at the international site, I don't imagine they pay a lot of attention to the traffic patterns that they have there. I haven't heard any complaints.
Mayor, just to supplement Councilmember Nichols' point, I've heard you mention the concern over the use. I think you'd have to use some care in evaluating the variance standards because that's not tied to the individual property owner's use of the property. It's tied to the actual physical characteristics of the property. So there can be findings made that the property itself makes the particular mulch impractical. You could look into that. But I would not focus on his particular use. Remember, the variance runs with the land, applies to any use on that property. What about this property makes it unique that it doesn't need to strictly comply with the code standards? So I just want to throw that in there as you make these considerations, because if the council does determine to to grant either of the variances, staff would need direction on findings from you, so you'll have to work through that.
Anything else? Okay, then I will call vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passes 3-2, 2 to variances. Any other items staff has worked to resolve with the planting right away? And is there anything else?
Not related to this applicant.
Okay, thank you.
Where does that leave me?
Staff?
There are a number of options, and they will be presented to you. I can tell you what they are now as well. Similar to what's been presented on other occasions previously in the inspection report. Such options would be to remove rock mulch and replace it per city standards, provide additional plantings in front, behind, or next to hydrangeas in the front yard along the parking lot, noting the hydrangeas can remain as long as additional plantings are planted that meet the standards. Address other comments from that inspection report related to missing or dead items, and provide an updated landscape plan with a site plan amendment that would be reviewed administratively if possible against those items. In the resolution as well, and I guess you can speak on this about the variance, City Code Section 1070.040, subdivision 3.C14 does not allow a similar application for a variance affecting the same property for at least 6 months from the date of denial.
So are you telling me that I'm tearing up the mulch and the hydrangeas I planted for my family? Yes?
Not the hydrangea.
Not just the mulch?
Hydrangeas do not need to be removed. The mulch would need to be replaced with hardwood mulch, or a zoning text amendment, or waiting to apply for a similar variance. Options can be discussed at another time as well with you.
Who am I discussing?
Anyone at city
We're going
staff.
back to the city council to rediscuss this?
Those are options to be discussed, as discussed now, or in a public forum at another time, or through another application request.
I would start with staff.
Thanks for the clarification. Dean, Mark, my eyes are up here, sweethearts.
You shouldn't make false allegations.
You shouldn't be such a coward. You have no idea what you're talking about.
You're running your mouth. Back it up.
Enjoy your evening.
Punitive approval of it.
Squirt them out.
I've been called a sweet for decades. I'm like all warm inside.
Uncalled for.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, can I make a request?
Yeah.
Let's all take a deep breath.
Mr. Mayor,
Yep.
if I may, I apologize to us, well, everybody up here, but I have spent numerous hours with numerous people on this conversation and topic and such, and it's difficult to get any agreement. So my apologies to everybody else.
No need to
Mr. Mayor, no disrespect to you, so thank you.
You didn't do anything.
Yeah.
I'm a coward, so.
On to,
Deep breath, I like that, Jay. Appreciate
breath.
your,
6J.
appreciate it.
Michelle.
Do we miss I?
Actually, it'd be I, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yeah, it just came in after, but yeah.
Oh, that's
6I, Dean.
It's a grumpy council member Baron Campbell. The only question I had on Dwight, if you have a minute.
Of course.
I'll wait for you. The Wiseman Garage CUP and such, great work on it, everything else. The only thing I want to make sure that we are doing is making sure we are compatible to, if it's appropriate, to the Rush Creek shed. They wanted to put in a metal roof and such. They were told they had to have unexposed fasteners and those kind of things. When I read this shed is a stone throw away from that shed. Is the difference because that is commercial and this is residential?
That's exactly correct, Councilor Camp. The Rush Creek Golf Course maintenance shed, functionally, it's a shed, and a lot of times we use the term sheds and accessory structures
Right.
interchangeably. But for that parcel, that is the principal structure on that property, or on the Corcoran side of the golf course. And so since it's a principal structure, it has to comply with the principal structure building requirements of non-residential zoning districts, which includes that requirement that metal roofs have to have the concealed fasteners, whereas accessory structures don't have that same requirement. So
You bring up a good question for me. It's not the principal structure on the entire property, though. The principal structures are the clubhouse and everything else over there.
Not
This
Corcoran.
is an accessory structure for the whole thing, but in Corcoran, it's a principal structure.
that's correct, Councilman.
You've corrected me, you've trained me, you've taught me. I appreciate the time. With that, I'll approve, make recommendation for approval on 6I, Mr. Mayor.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. 6J, Michelle.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess the question I have about this CUP for staff is, how do we ascertain if this is actually for commercial use or if it really is for private? Because on the survey, it's a business name. It's not the property owner's name. And then we also received an email referencing concern about commercial property or commercial vehicles coming in and out of that location. And then, of course, there's an office also, which made me question if it was really residential or if it's really going to be commercial.
Before he answers, Councilmember Friedrich, the person who you received an email from has requested and submitted a public comment card requesting to speak in the city.
Okay, thank you.
Answer the question? Okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, so as part of every conditional use permit for the sidewall height exemption, we have a standard in there that requires, or it restricts the use of the structure to not allow any commercial use unless prior approval of a home occupation license, whether that's allowed, special, or conditional home occupation. And so that's just a standard across all of those CUP requests. And through this conditional use permit, we review the application materials and the narrative, and going through those materials, it appeared that it was going to be used for personal use, and through the review process, staff was made aware that there's occupation occurring on the site. And so I've been working with the property owner to understand the operation and its needs, and figure out how it fits within our ordinance, and specifically if it needs to fit in that structure, what's the approval process there. In those discussions, it sounds like it's the only use that the occupation would use within that structure would be administrative tasks within that office. When we look at the plans, office can either, when you're looking at it, it could be a personal office, it could be a professional office, but that condition that it can't be used for commercial uses restricts that commercial use until we go through the home occupation ordinance requirements. So I'm actively working with the applicant now to address the home occupation ordinance and understand where that fits. But for tonight, we're looking at just the sidewall height of the structure. And
Okay. I have another follow-up question. So I did a little research, and their physical address for their business is actually their home address. So it is listed as that's where their business is. So I have a hard time understanding how that's not going to end up being a commercial use. And then why would we allow that building to be built prior to that other piece being completed? Because I would want to see that piece completed first so we knew what that looked like, and then follow through with getting the building done. Because I feel like we're putting the horse before the cart.
sure. That's an option, Councilor Friedrich.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you.
How can you go?
I'm a lot better, a lot better. Now she's ripping them.
We have similar home occupations throughout the city that are also construction or contractors-based operations that are allowed occupations that don't operate within accessory structures. A lot of times they're just a trailer and an F-350 or a pickup truck, and there's no need for that use in the accessory structure. And based on the applicant's narrative, the accessory structure is going to be used for a lot of personal uses rather than commercial use. So one option is to go through with the structure review tonight for the CUP, since it's before you tonight, and then we go through the occupation review, since that, it may just be an allowed home occupation where that's just an administrative review. It could be a special home occupation where that's an administrative permit and has neighbor feedback, or it could be a conditional home occupation license, which is the interim use permit. But
So another reason why I'm asking this question is many, many, many years ago, I worked for a construction company. It was actually my dad's company. And he occasionally would store his equipment at my house. And I live not far from City Hall. And I did get questioned by people at the staff at City Hall that it was, what is this? And then being told that we can't have that on our property because it's not considered a commercial property, which I totally understood and agreed with. So that's why I'm bringing this forward. And I feel very strongly that we're putting the horse before the cart without first determining what the true intent of that building. Because I have a hard time believing, especially with the construction company, that there won't be equipment stored there, that there won't be all of that stuff. And based on what I saw on the website, it looks like it's an amazing company because they do all things. But I want to be respectful of people that live around that area too.
sure. And not to put the applicant on the spot, the applicant is here and can speak to the use of the structure.
Okay.
If you would like, if you want to ask him about that. But to answer your question, based on the layout of the structure and the narrative and conversations with the applicant, it appears that's going to be used for personal uses. And if there's a violation of that, then we're beginning to have talks of revocation of the conditional use permit. So.
That I understand, but then we've already got this big building that's there, already built. So that's why I'm thinking, to me, it just makes sense, but I've said my piece. I'm done.
Although they could have it as long as it's not used for that purpose.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
one of the CUP standards is that it can't have a negative impact on the enjoyment of surrounding property. And from the email we received, it appears that the neighbor may feel that it will.
And they are present.
So I'd like to hear from them before we make a decision, make a motion.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I've got a few other things
Sure,
to
go for
add to this.
and then we'll hear from both
A big
applicant and neighbor.
reason, and we've recently had this, I think as all of us are up here, a private driveway or a private easement. When I've been out there looking from the private drive and such, I'm seeing it extremely difficult to come off of, it's called No Name Road, but again, it's a private drive, and turn into this residence. The other thing I'm seeing as far as boundaries and such is this property has no ownership of the private drive. So I'm asking on that, there needs to be some collaboration with the rest of the people that have the easements before we say yes to something like this. Because everybody back there has an Oakdale Drive address, but none of them have an Oakdale driveway except the No Name Road, which is a private driveway. Am I correct on that, Dwight?
Correct. All of the properties on the No Name Road have an Oakdale Drive address, so they're all part of a private driveway agreement that the city is not a party to. So for actual vehicles traveling on that private road, that's the responsibility of the applicant, the landowner, to understand what is and isn't allowed on that private drive. We're not able to enforce those rules since we're not a party to the private drive itself. But from a standpoint of reviewing just the structure,
We're reviewing the structure, yea or nay and such, so the rest is up to who then? The area property owners that own the driveway easement, so to speak.
if the easement has language in there that restricts that type of use, or that type of those type of vehicles coming in and out, then that's something that would be prohibitive for him to operate on that site.
And I'm gonna, a couple more things, and then believe me, I will be quiet. When I was there Sunday and again Tuesday, just trying to chew on this and digest it and such. There is a large dump trailer in front of the home. I believe I counted 3 other trailers, empty trailers sitting there. There's also a storage container on the side, front yard, so to speak. And then I'm severely concerned about the drainage easement that goes under their driveway. And the fill that has been brought in, I don't know when it was brought in, but it looks like there's new fill in preparations of possibly opening that parking area and those kind of things. And I also have the same concerns about a business, and the cart before the horse I'm not in favor of. So those are some of the things I have, and Jeremy has already said it too. You've got a card from somebody that I'd love to hear from that person, so.
Okay. Do we want to hear from applicant first, then neighbor, or neighbor applicant?
If I could make a recommendation,
Sure.
Mr. Mayor? I think the person who sent concerns might raise some concerns, that then it would be helpful for the applicant to be able
Makes
to
sense.
respond to those concerns as well as the things that, so.
Perfect, let's do that.
So, Mr. Joe Lackner, sir, if you could please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and 3 to 5 minutes, sir. Thank you for being here.
I'm Joe Lackner. I live at 22075 Oakdale. We are in direct line of sight of the proposed building. I sent each of you an email. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. Okay? Mark? Yes? Okay, thank you. In there, we have pictures, okay? First of all, we're not against a building as long as it's, along city ordinances. But what is being proposed, and I was surprised when I saw it at the Planning Commission. I didn't put a card in. I didn't think I would need to talk. And that's when I first saw that this is beyond what would be acceptable in that neighborhood. And it's changed a lot. The individual who had lived there before, who built the house, I had sent a photo. That's what his property looked like every day. And today, I've sent you additional photos. This is what it looks like now every day. This is a business. I don't know anybody who puts a shipping container in their front yard. And it's coming and going, and it doesn't stop. And Michelle, you mentioned that you looked at his website. Right off of it, we will offer general contracting services for any project, big or small. We do demolition, framing, various other construction. We can build you anything, and that's fine, okay? But I don't think it should be at our expense, okay? You had mentioned the driveway agreement, and the easement is for a private dwelling serving egress, ingress, and enjoyable access, not commercial. And backing these big trailers in and out is tearing apart our driveway. It's our property to get into the applicant's property, and the driveway is this wide. And it's always been that wide. But when he comes out onto our road, he's cutting it, damaging our property. Now it's this wide, So that's damaging another neighbor's property, just isn't, I just don't think it's responsible or respectful. You had mentioned, the Planning Commission thought that they could plant shrubbery or trees. I don't want to be back here again talking about hydrangeas. That's what we're concerned about. We can see their property from every window in our home. Every window. My office, our entryway, our dining room, our kitchen, our laundry room, and our sunroom. All day I'm looking at that picture. And the planning commission didn't take into account, we're much higher than they are, about 20 feet. So nothing is going to hide a building that's 26 and a half feet. As I say, we're not against a building, but they've got 4 acres and 70% is behind their house. So if they were to relocate it, that meets city ordinances, maybe the 10-foot walls, and that it has to look like their house. Every garage in that development looks exactly like their house. What's being proposed isn't anything like it. And as I say, we'd be okay with is build it behind the house and make it consistent in scale and appearance of the existing house, and ensure that all business-related equipment, trailers, and all construction material are enclosed within that structure. Nobody has their cars parked outside. Nobody. And so this shouldn't be anything special for a new resident. And you mentioned about the private driveway, and the gentleman who built that house and lived there and sold it to the Alfers, and the gentleman that built our house.
Mr. Lackman, may I just a second? Mr. Mayor, can I extend his time,
Yep.
please?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
They got into a big dispute. There's two beautiful trees on each side of the driveway. Apparently, the person that owned, not our house, but the house that we're talking about, I think he burned them down. Could have been by accident because he's got this big area. If you've seen the property, there's no grass. It's natural. It's natural because he didn't want to do anything. And I think he had university come in and burn, and he burned the trees down. So our previous owner and he ended up in court, and he had to replace these trees. Well, at that point, our previous owner looked at the easement, the drainage easement, and said, your driveway isn't legal. I want you off my property, okay? The day we moved in, that property owner came to us and begged us, please, I'll be a good neighbor, okay? I don't want you to do anything. He talked to his attorney, and he said, and he told the whole neighborhood, he put it in writing, I just learned that I do not have access to this easement. And the only access I have to my property is off of Oakdale Drive. So that means I got to park my car and walk through that brush to get to my house. So I've asked John, I've texted him, I'd like to talk about your building. I think it's beneficial to both of us. Please let me know when is a good time to talk. 3 days later, I get an email. What do you want to talk about? I'm very busy. I probably don't have time. How do you deal with that? The only thing we've got to talk about is the building. You shouldn't question me when I say, let's talk and find a solution. So at that point, we're good neighbors. We want everybody to be a good neighbor, but you can't be a good neighbor if you want to do something at the expense of every other neighbor. And other neighbors have also expressed concern. One of the look of this shipping container that should not be there. It doesn't have wheels on it. It's not registered. It doesn't have a tab on. It doesn't fit the look of of our neighborhood. So I don't know what to do. So that's kind of where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's hear from the applicant.
John Alfers, 22085 Oakdale Drive. I'm not sure what you want me to address first. Shipping container, we've discussed that with Dwight. That's a temporary thing from, I mean, I moved in the middle of winter. I mean, I didn't have many options without having a shop like I had at my previous residence. I mean, I had some last minute things I had to do, which we're removing that as soon as the shop is built. And I've been very straightforward with all my neighbors within 5 minutes of meeting them that I was going to build a shop, including Joe, and where it was going to be located, as long as it got approved by you guys, obviously, since I was exceeding the sidewall height. The shop would look better than my house. Let me remind you, it's not a pole barn. It is, I'm spending double the amount of money to stick frame a building. So it will fit in very well with everything around it. Let's just say that, and it will raise the value of all surrounding properties, including my own, including all the other work I plan to do to the house. As far as the road goes, that was in bad shape to begin with, and I haven't seen it change at all. I've been there a short period of time, obviously, and it's been winter. But from what I've seen, it hasn't changed. It needs to be replaced in the next couple of years, which obviously I'll have my part in, since it's a private drive. Where else do you want me to go here, I guess?
Anyone have questions?
If-
I guess,
if I-
oh, go ahead. No.
You first.
Okay. I guess I would just like to understand, you've called it a shop.
Yep.
Which is associated with a business to me. It's like, where is your business located? Is that your primary address of where the business is? Or is there like a location that you're anticipating storing all your equipment at?
I do not have a separate location,
Okay.
but I only do administrative tasks out of home. I have a skid loader trailer, because I used to have a skid loader a few years ago. I do not have one anymore. I just held onto the trailer for basically personal use. I have a dump trailer that I do use for my business, and I have an enclosed trailer that I use for personal needs. And there is a dumpster on the property right now between moving in and stuff like that. And I've discussed with Dwight, because the trailer issues have been raised, so I have come up with a plan to put, obviously there's gonna be a driveway going up to the shop, to put a driveway around the west side of the property, or west side of the shop to the back, to an area where I can park trailers, which would be screened on the north and east sides, and there's already screening on the west side. And then obviously the shop would provide screening on the south side, and no one would even see any of that back there.
Mr. Mayor, real quick, and I'm
Yeah,
sorry,
no,
I
go
don't see a driveway on the back side of the house to the shop.
No, around, so it would still come from my driveway. So I don't know if we can, if you have the layout of the property, I guess,
You're
but,
gonna go from the driveway easement around
yep, can
the
I,
east side of your home, and then behind the home to the other side of the shop.
no, the west side, sorry.
Yeah, you
Can I just point?
You can point out.
This out, okay. So the shop would go right here, yeah, right there, and then, so obviously the driveway already comes in right there. So you come right in the front garage doors of the shop. So I would go around the west side of it, and then create a spot behind it there that would be screened from all view of anyone. Even though that, I think, besides maybe the dump trailer, lots of people have skid loader trailers, multiple people in the neighborhood have trailers. As far as things getting parked outside, I mean, you can see on that aerial right there, the first neighbor there has a tractor and a trailer outside. The second neighbor has 4 trailers outside, which you can't see on that probably, but, yeah, there's 3 of them right there.
So then
So-
my other question then, Mr. Mayor, and this might be for Dwight and such, we're already talking this building being 20 feet wide. It'll be 20.3 feet away from the property line and 20 feet away from the home. Where would he put a driveway? You can't put a driveway in that 20.3 feet, can he, to get around to the back side of his shop?
There's no setback requirement for driveways.
Okay.
Councilman Count.
And
Okay.
that the original survey, or I originally submitted for a 40 by 80 building, so that's what the survey is for. It it came to my attention that I could not get a variance or anything to go above the table set by Corcoran for my 4.1 acres, which is 2,156 square feet. So that has been reduced to to meet that 56, a 36 by 59 foot 10 inches and 13 sixteenths or something like that to meet that 11 sixteenths to meet that exact square footage requirement. So that would mean I could have it a little closer to the house, and that would provide me more room around the west side of my property, or west side of the building, to access that back there.
And Mr. Mayor, another question, why not access and move the building behind the home instead of behind the home to the area that the pointer is pointing to right now?
Do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah.
So.
What's the purpose?
So if we looked at the layout of the shop, I have a lounge area in the back corner, and well, for just use and getting to it, it'd be nice to be close to the house. And then I have a patio area out that back corner, and eventually we do hopefully plan to put a pool in outside there as well. So that would kind of serve as a pool house for that essentially, because there's a bathroom in there instead of coming into the house.
And
So
you couldn't reverse that to put it on the south side of the pole building or of an access structure or accessory structure. If it were to the north side, you couldn't just flip that design and that layout around and.
You could, but then are you proposing that I would have a driveway from Oakdale?
No, I'm asking why not get a driveway off of No Name Road that is more appropriate to do trailers and those kind of things, because that's an awful tight corner. I've got my own trailers, my horse trailer and other trailers right now, and I couldn't make that corner without tearing up the property owner's land.
Well,
And it's not your land, it's the driveway's there, but it's a pretty good share of property that you're driving across to get you your home. I'm confused on, number one, this is why I hate shared private drives, all of this stuff, because stuff like this is gonna come up, folks. And I know we've had a couple in front of us before, and we've said no, and we've ended up in the bad side of things. But I know and understand why you don't have an access to Oakdale Drive, because the sight line's on your property. So I don't understand how, and maybe Zeke or Kendra might know and understand, how do we get a private drive and this property has no part of that easement whatsoever? I don't quite understand that one.
That's a good question, because we don't have access to that private driveway agreement, but all of the lots that are on this private drive are all part of Schmidt's Hidden Valley. Well, 4 of them are part of Schmidt's Hidden Valley First Edition, 2 of them are part of Schmidt's Hidden Valley Second Edition.
Right.
And so going through those subdivision files, it appeared that the access for the subject property came off of this private driveway. We don't have access to that agreement, so I can't verify whether the claim of it not having access to that private drive is true or false, unfortunately.
So in my mind, this is my last statement, and I couldn't say yes to this until there's some clarity around that driveway and that agreement because of the situation that it's in. And it's a beautiful neighborhood, it's a great place. I have spent time trespassing down that private drive a lot over the last couple of weeks. So if you ever see the big truck, that's me.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
More for staff. Dwight, if you could maybe just shed some light on this. So the concern is the wear and tear on the road. We don't have access to those, however many agreements there are. Like, if this were a city road, what would someone have to do to bring that up to par to make sure that those pieces of equipment, the heavier equipment, would be able to drive on that road? Is that a fair question to ask right now? If you don't have the answer, that's okay too.
I think that's a fair question to ask if we were reviewing the home occupation, but tonight
Okay.
is just the conditional use permit for the sidewalk.
Right, which I'm sorry, I'm reverting back to the horse and the cart. So I feel like that needs to be done first before we could even touch looking at what this other option is.
Can I speak to that?
Sure.
I mean, I don't have any equipment besides a couple trailers. I drive a F-350, which, the neighbor right next to me drives either a 2500 or 3500. The other neighbor has a 3500. I mean, it's a common vehicle on that private drive, so it's not creating any more wear and tear than anyone else on there. And, I mean, you could say my dump trailer, I guess, but it's got 2 axles. I mean, it's not creating any more wear and tear on that.
Sir, can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
How do you do what your business list that you do without equipment?
Well, I'm a general contractor.
Okay,
So-
so it's all subcontract.
Yep.
That's why I'm asking, because I'm trying
Yep.
to get educated.
Yeah, I mean, we do some like framing and stuff like that, but that requires a nail gun and a pouch, you know?
So like this right here, whatever this is, that's bringing in the trusses, that's somebody who's subcontracted by you?
Yeah, the crane?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely not me, no. No.
No, I'm not saying,
And I mean-
this was just off of your
Yeah.
contracting business. So I was
And-
wanting to understand, as you're saying, you
Yeah.
don't have any equipment, I was like,
No,
well, you do a lot
no,
of things without any, that requires a big
Yeah.
magic wand.
I used to have a skid loader, like I said, but I sold that a few years back. So I don't have any large equipment, you know? I have tools, you know, and just like a lot of homeowners do. And,
Thanks for
Yeah.
clarification. I was just
Yeah.
trying to understand.
yep,
I'm a bit confused, because it seems like some of the concerns may be addressed by the building, the vehicles and equipment outside. Some may be caused by the building. Seems like there's kind of two separate, completely contradicting.
You're right, you're absolutely right. Mr. Mayor, my thing is I could not stand in the way of a building there if it were the 10-foot height, like the 10-foot sidewall. I could not. But the questions and the way things are, and have no idea if there's been any collaboration. I'd be collaborating an awful lot with which one's got the majority of that easement, and that's the property right where the star is right now, with those folks on what the expectations are to access that private drive. I have no idea what the agreement is or anything else. I mean, it's just too many questions. Understand the pool and all that stuff. It's a great vision, a great view and stuff. But if I were owning this, I'd figure out a different way to not have a 320-degree turn in my driveway if I'm bringing in empty trailers and those kind of things. So that's me.
can I speak to that? I mean, I didn't build the property, so, I mean,
I'm
moved in.
grossly aware.
Well, right, I'm just
You
saying,
moved in.
like, I moved in 4 months ago, I realized the state of things outside right now, and that's not the way I want it kept either, you know? I've moved in, and it's been winter, you know, I haven't had a chance to improve the property until now, basically. And obviously, I'm trying to do that with this and everything else. And like you said, we wouldn't even be having this conversation if it was a 10-foot sidewall height.
Right.
And just, I want to clarify again, it's not a pole barn, it's a stick frame building, so it's gonna have, you know, LP siding on it, which is on all higher end homes mostly. And it's gonna more than comply with every other material in the neighborhood, if not go beyond it. So, I mean, I don't know, I don't,
Dwight, isn't
See
there
there.
a requirement to have the materials matching or similar to?
Not for accessory structures, no.
Not for
They have accessory structures, back to the conversation about the Wiseman garage. There are specific standards within the building materials section in the zoning ordinance, but that section doesn't require aesthetic matching with the principal structure.
Yeah, for
Accessory dwelling
ADU.
units
Okay.
have that requirement, but not
ADU.
accessory
Gotcha.
dwellings. Now, there might be a deed restriction, or if there's an HOA, they might have those requirements, but from a city perspective, it doesn't have to match, no.
Gotcha. Thank you.
yeah, so there's vinyl on the house right now, and that is going to get tore off as well, and it will match the shop and color coordinate and everything eventually, you know, I just need time to do so. And, yeah, I mean, I fully intend on improving the property a lot. I'll probably be putting $500,000 into it in the next few years, you know, so it's, you know, should benefit everyone in the neighborhood.
I still hold, the more issues I look at, the more I look at it, the more issues I see. How are you gonna deliver all the building materials to get back there? Again, you gotta make that 330, 40 degree spin to get into that driveway, and then you have no way to turn around if you bring in trailers and those kind of things. Or is it all, there's no rafters, there's no nothing, you're bringing in raw material? And then what happens to the road? I've been on it plenty that normal wear and tear right now, it's not potted hold or anything else. If you tear it up, what's the agreement between you and the neighbors? A lot of those things. I'd rather right now, with all the questions we're having, I'd rather make a recommendation to table this if there's a timeline available for those questions to get answered with the neighbors, and come back with a plan to make what I think you're telling me is a beautiful property, a beautiful addition to your property is what I'm seeing and such. There's constraints, and that's me. I'll be quiet.
Mr. Mayor? Oh, can I ask one more question? Or were you going to respond, Dwight?
Can I respond to that quick?
Let's Michelle and then.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I recall, in other large structures, we have recommended more buffering. Was that something that was discussed with this?
That's correct. The planning commission reviewed this application and unanimously approved or recommended for approval with the condition that the applicant provide additional screening through either landscaping or berming or a combination.
So my question would be then, if it's already going to be a tight area with additional buffering, to me, that's going to make it even more difficult to get into that where it's going to be located with the buffering. It's just the way the driveway would go, especially with the comment you made about the 320-degree curve that you have to make when you're pulling stuff in.
I back my trailers in, so I guess, I don't know, I've been backing up trailers and pulling trailers my whole life, basically, so it's not an issue to me, to be honest with you. I can see where it is to someone that doesn't maybe pull trailers, but it's not,
Okay, I
it's
have a
not really
question for
concern.
you.
Yep.
How often do you think you accidentally go on your neighbor's property when you're backing up your trailers?
Never. I don't know. This damage, I would like to see where that is, because I don't cross the road. I mean, I back or pull straight into my driveway, and that's it. And I've discussed with Sergey right there, straight to the east of me, about the road replacement, as well as Joe. And we have discussed that obviously it's a bad idea to do before construction of this, but it's a good discussion to have after I'm done constructing this. Because I mean, like, if you've been out there, it's not in the best shape in the world.
Wait, do we have an answer on the timeline?
So the 120-day review deadline or timeline ends on June 20th, 2026.
I feel more comfortable with it with a different access point as well.
I don't know if that's gonna be figure outable by then.
Well, if I access it from a different point, then it'd just be going through one of their properties, you know what I mean? So, because they also own, you see my property lines there, so their property lines go across the private drive to my fence line, basically, is where it's at. So then you're creating, I guess, I'd have to go look back at the agreement when I bought the house. Obviously, I looked through what the easement was or whatever for the private drive. I couldn't tell you all the words that it said right now. I read it at the time, but But also, if I were to trade on the road, I mean, that's creating quite a bit of financial burden on me. I mean, that's another $50,000 in excavating to do to access a building, you know? Whereas I already have an access, and yeah. So,
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but we've been told that financial numbers are not a reason that we can use to say yea or nay to a conditional use. So I see a really nice neighborhood, a really nice home you guys are in. I think a really nice add-on, and then again with the pool and everything else, all great things. But you're accessing it through a huge private driveway, and I'd really like to make the motion to table this until some of these questions are answered before I say yea or nay. Otherwise, I'm saying nay to the extended sidewall height. That's me.
So let me try to provide some hopefully helpful information for council. You said June
20th.
June 20th? Yep. So that would give us, if we wanted to table it, realistically, the June 11th meeting or the May 28th meeting. One of those two, depending on other agenda items. And I would recommend if we had direction on what type of stuff we'd like them to work on, what maybe as additional documentation, meeting with neighbor, et cetera.
I'd like to see meeting with the neighbor. For me, the crux is going to be the CUP requirement around not having a negative effect on surrounding property. So if you two get on the same page, it's a no-brainer for me. If there's a dispute between the two of you and your neighbor is not happy, it becomes a bigger challenge for me to justify approval, if it's reasonable.
okay. So he's concerned with the sidewall height. He has a detached garage that's a 2-story. He has 16-foot sidewall heights. And he's,
All been approved
Right, but
before this.
right,
So, I mean,
and that, it wasn't approved by you guys, I'm sure. I'm sure it's completely different, but I'm just saying, it's kind of being hypocritical, isn't it, that he's upset about my sidewall height, but he has the same? I mean,
he doesn't want to, the way I understand it, he doesn't want to stare at it. And he's all on board if you were to move it out of his sight line. And again, you've got 60% at least more land out behind that it could move to. And I'd be the first one to say yes, no matter what he said, that if you were to relocate it further back. That's why I asked you, interested in flipping that lounge and office and the bathroom and everything else to the south side of the building, and the rest of the building is facing north, and a driveway coming off of that other, your easterly location. And yeah, again, you gotta talk to those two neighbors to see if you can get it. And then, in my mind, driving in up to the shed and back out, that's a whole nother thing. Not losing that driveway for your residents, if that makes sense. That's all I'm saying. And again, it's gonna cost money.
right.
Sorry.
But, yeah. I mean, I've limited options for where I could put a driveway there as well, because my mound system is backed by those 2 trees right there. So it would have to come basically right away as you turn onto the private drive. You'd have to come in, and you'd have a pretty long driveway, since it's a small building that I'm building.
And then
that-
you're talking your drainage easement too. If I remember one of the photos that we have here, there's a drainage easement following the whole
East side of
the whole east side of your property to go underneath Oakdale and stuff, all challenges of this piece of property.
right,
My understanding.
which is why a driveway from the front where there already is one is, we don't have to deal with any of that.
There's the easement.
I mean, yeah.
I was just gonna make a motion to table.
Okay. Do you have the date?
Yep, I would make a motion to table to the June 11th.
A second.
Okay, motion and a second. Discussion on that. Any additional feedback to applicant on what we'd like to see besides try to work with neighbor?
A conversation with
Yeah.
neighbors, talk about road repairs after construction, all of those things, location, size, the whole 9 yards. We've
If
kind
that
of said it
easement
all.
agreement
I-
is available, if we could. take a
I
look
have
at
done that.
May I say something?
Sure. You wanna back it up?
Can I go up here?
You take the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's taped.
Oh,
it's
sorry.
taped on.
Talk loud.
No problem. When this gentleman built his house, he tore all this up, and he parked all of his construction equipment, all of his supplies here. That's one reason why I'm concerned. This is what's getting torn up. There's no, every trailer is coming here and being backed up here, and this is tore up, this here, okay? And there's no way, because it's not happening now, dirt has been, dump loads, trailer loads have been dumped in here of dirt. Even with that dirt, he's unable to turn the trailers around here. So every trailer goes here and comes back here, picks it up, goes out, comes here, goes here, comes here, goes here, and it's the same. It's the same all, every day. And I hate to say it, John, but this container that you're using for storage.
I'm sorry,
Direct-
Joe, you gotta
direct comment
talk with
to us.
us, not.
I'm sorry. The reference to the storage container isn't temporary. I went back on GIS, Hennepin County aerial shots just like this, and those trailers were parked at his previous property as far back as 2018, including the shipping container. So I don't know what to believe. That road's gonna get tore up. I agree that the asphalt is cracked, and a lot of that was done when that house there was built. What I'm concerned about is tearing up our property, specifically right in front of our house. This is our house on the bottom there. And there's no way anybody can get a trailer in and then turn them around, because it's not happening. Not once has a truck come out with a trailer behind it. It's constantly backing, in the opposite way. They're constantly being backed in. And then we got to look at the trailers. So,
Would the, and keeping in mind we have a pending motion, if it was tabled, would the issue of the storage trailers be a condition that we could place on it, the removal by a certain date?
Correct, and if it's not in the resolution right now, I apologize, that should be a condition,
It
but
could be.
this is kind of a mixture of a land use application and a code enforcement issue. And our code enforcement policy is to try and be cooperative with landowners to try and resolve it rather than going headfirst in with a violation notice. So in working with the property owner, he's been notified that he's not allowed to have that shipping container on the property. And as a compromise, we felt that it was reasonable that he have the shipping container on the property until the structure is built, and then the items that are stored within the shipping container be transferred to the new structure, and then the shipping container would then be removed from the property. But we can certainly memorialize that within the conditional.
I think that's a good idea.
Mayor, can I add something to the framing that Dwight just mentioned as far as there kind of being two parts to this, being the CUP application, but also the code enforcement element? I think it's an important line and distinction for the council to consider. There's been a lot of discussion for things like access, which don't have a lot to do with the CUP for building height. Now, impact on the neighborhood, as Councilmember Nichols mentioned, can be impacted based on what the building looks like, where it is, things like that. These are things that you can send back for collaboration, not necessarily things that neighbors can mandate, but a healthy conversation would probably be appropriate. But for things like access, I think the main concern is what the presumed use is. that's a code enforcement element, right? That's gonna take place as far as the enforcement, if there's home occupation permits that need to come forward, and if they don't, that's a code enforcement of that lack of permit. So we wanna make sure to separate those two. Any findings related to the CUP need to really be findings about what, the applicability or appropriateness of this sidewall height in this neighborhood. That's the CUP standard you're looking at. And these other concerns, which are valid, probably right now are a better fit for code enforcement, and they have to be vetted out. And I think what Dwight's telling you is, that is, under review, and some time is being given, some leeway as they get established, but that's not indefinite, that'll be watched. So I think I wanted to frame that up for the council and forward to the report.
Potentially work could be done on that.
Yeah. What is our ordinance on how many outside vehicles or trailers or RVs or lots of all toys, all the good things we can have in Corcoran? What are the restrictions for any residential homeowner?
Yeah, for in relation to home occupation or just a general?
Just in general, like as a resident, if I want to have an RV and a camper and a jet ski and a boat and 2 trailers and a skid loader and my big blue tractor out beside my house, what does our code say about that?
Pull up that section here.
I read it today if you want to know. Sure.
No, we know what it is, we just want it on record, so,
So,
Joe, you can.
Thank you.
If you want.
Councilor Friedrich, recreational vehicles, this is coming from the nuisance section of the city code. Recreational vehicles, personal recreational vehicles, off-road vehicles, and unoccupied trailers, which would be, in this case, the trailers that are stored on this property, may be stored in the side or rear yard, provided they comply with a minimum setback of 10 feet, or no more than 2 of any recreational vehicle, personal recreational vehicle, off-road vehicle, and unoccupied trailer may be stored in the front yard, provided it is stored on an improved surface and complies with a minimum setback of 25 feet from the front property line.
Thank you.
So there is a motion and a second on the table. Does anyone else have any discussion on that, questions on that?
And the motion is to table it.
Table to the
June 11th.
June 11th meeting, and just to verify with staff that in theory work.
Accessible.
Okay.
Do we have anything else that day?
Not yet.
Currently on June 11th, we have a civic campus work session ahead of that, but nothing else has been clearly added to the agenda as of today.
And the Hennepin County Fair.
Which I will be at for the first time in 20 years.
One more question, I'm
Yep.
sorry. Dwight, where is the front yard on this property?
This one is a bit of a unique parcel because the definition of front yard is, it includes public right-of-way, it includes private streets or private roadways, so this one abuts 3 of the sides are considered front property lines. So it's really majority of the parcel minus maybe a plane of the western corner of the building to the western property line, and then the northernmost points of that building to the western property line. So there's not much of a rear yard, it's mostly front yard under our zoning ordinance definition of front yard.
Thanks.
Okay, anything else? All right, I'll call the vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes 7. And if, recommend that applicants reach out to staff, work on next steps, and maybe if you have any questions in terms of what type of work and feedback we'd like to see when you come back.
Right, so I can't do any improvements or get rid of the shipping container or anything until this gets discussed and I have to potentially build it after that if it's approved. I'd like to improve the property as soon as possible. Obviously, I don't want Joe looking at that stuff. I want to it be livable.
I'll say this, if you're able to
get something to us sooner than that, and we have the availability to get it on an agenda before then, I think we're able to do so.
And for your awareness, the next two council meetings will be May 14th or May 28th, so the second and fourth Thursday.
Okay, and then, is there one more pool?
There is.
6K, Dean?
Are those applicants here? No need to get up. All I want, and I should have asked to change it, I'm sorry you had to sit through all this, but great job on the ordinances and everything else. I know there's a sidewall pipe change and stuff, but this was a really good job from both the applicant and our planning department and such, so. That's all I had for it. I don't know if anybody else had, but my apologies for you having to sit through it, but I would make a recommendation to approve 6K.
I will make that motion.
Do you have a second?
A second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Well, all right, thank you. Okay, and then that gets us through consent, no planning, no unfinished business, no new business, staff report.
So first and foremost, Mayor and Council, I'm excited for him and sad for us to share that Mr. Tom Anderson is going to be moving out of Corcoran. So he can share the details of that on his own, but what that does do, I got to spend some quality time with him yesterday at the Three Rivers Park District annual report, and very excited for him and his bride as they move on to this next chapter. That does require us to consider how we're going to fill another vacancy on the Parks and Trails Commission. That leaves us at 2. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. His gain is our loss. So this would be my recommendation. They're not selling the house immediately because this is transition into the new house. But I think it would be in his best interest and our best interest to give him some space to do that transition. So as soon as we can fill the commission spot, they didn't give an exact date, but I believe it's late spring, early summer. So within the next few months.
Debbie, I know you said you had a couple applications and one that's not able to meet till.
He's gonna be out of the country until like May 15th.
And when are applications open to?
Well, that we have the applications open until Tuesday the 28th.
Maybe we want to extend that with the knowledge of another opening happening.
Yeah, we just received notice, so.
I would maybe suggest we extend it at least another few weeks till that applicant can come. I'm going to be out of town for a week here. And that way, now that we have a second one, we have some time to get applications in. So maybe mid-May, and then we can hopefully have at least a few applications in and do a rotating group to do interviews and figure it out from there.
Mr. Mayor, just a friendly reminder, keep in mind the Charter Commission is in some new members as well.
Yes.
Which continues to be advertised on our board.
And I think one of the applicants has interest in both.
Okay.
So we'd have to figure that out, but potentially.
And could they be on both?
No, I don't think so, no. Sure. We'll take a 6-minute recess here and re-adjourn at 9 o'clock.
Some minor grading work, some irrigation changes probably in the next month or so here in the spring, and then later summer when the materials come, they'll install the structure, so.
Very exciting.
It is.
If we get any other updates, we'll share my future council meetings, so.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good.
Thank you.
And then, Mayor, the last thing is just a request from staff, a request of staff of guidance, particularly related to subgroups. So one that just came up this evening with Mr. Anderson with commissions. There's been some concerns expressed about subgroups. Our city attorney had clarified, and we did call them, we've called them different things. The nomenclature was less important than the purpose, as I'd understood it, but staff does need clarification, because we haven't moved forward with scheduling this subgroup, because there's been some discussion expressing some concerns about them, and then now also, even when you just said that we need to schedule a subgroup meeting for the commission. So staff does need some guidance for clarification in order to clearly proceed with some pressing business.
Well, I think for the vacancies, we would go down to the same rotation we have. We'd have to look back at who did the last one with me.
So not with the rotation, Mr. Mayor, but actually there's been questions raised about have we, with the subgroups, been doing the right things? And so as I understand from our attorney, our appointed city attorney, yes, but some discussions with some council members, there's been expressed concern about that. And so staff would just like to get some guidance, and maybe it's scheduling a discussion about that. I don't know, but we're in a position right now that we're really in an awkward position as far as how to proceed with some pressing business.
Can I make a comment?
Sure.
So I really appreciate this big packet of information, Mr. Mayor. And I will be honest, I was the one that brought it to City Administrator Tobin's attention that I feel like we could be crossing a very gray line by the process that we've been going through with having committees set up to do certain things. Now, you could get into it and say our committee for like finding a commissioner is not setting policy. That's putting someone into a vacant position that we need on a commission. There's ways that we could also do that yearly. So we have a whole group interview, and we all sit with people that are interested in being on the committees. We have 2 alternates, and the 2 alternates are then ready to roll when we have someone that drops out. I know that's not easy in Corcoran because we don't have a multitude of volunteers yet. But when it comes to setting policy or discussing policy, the way I read statute is that it doesn't, if we establish a group to have a conversation about city business or policy, that group constitutes that board. So it doesn't matter if it's 2 council members and 2 staff members, it's still a committee. And under open meeting law, that committee would then be a quorum, is how I read it. And more so if we have decision makers that sit on that committee, the board.
I agree if the subcommittee, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
would have decision-making authority, policy-making authority. And my
Eventually though, right, Mr. Mayor, like not in the moment, like they're bringing forward a recommendation.
Right,
to the governing
I'm saying
body.
if they had decision-making authority, it would be
Thank you.
an issue. Or it would need to be open. Absent that, it's not a violation in my reading of it, and from what I found from case law and AG's opinions, and the league has written a lot about this, because it has been asked before. And, policy type discussion, as long as it's coming back to the council for a full discussion and vote to approve anything, which is what I believe the plan would be, then it would, I think, in my reading of it, is permissible to do.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
Would it be helpful if we have a policy subcommittee that rather than bring something back to the regular meeting for discussion, we actually did a work session to review the proposal, provided there's enough substance there, of course. Maybe it's not always necessary, but if there's substantial room for disagreement on the topic, a work session might allow for a more full-fledged discussion than we would get in a council.
Yeah, I mean, we could certainly have a work session on it. It's a matter of, like, in this instance, when do we have work session availability?
So to be candid, this particular subcommittee that we were talking about related to policy, it was on one policy discussion, not a myriad of policy issues at this point, and Mr. Thames made that clear in terms of trying to limit the scope. And so I don't know that the subject matter itself would warrant a full work session, unless there was a desire to look at other, and there are other adjacent policies impacted by that discussion. So if there was a desire to open up the scope, that would probably be appropriate time frame for a work session. But really it was just staff's desire in order to have some conversation. And similar with the commission, I think the commission decisions, it's a desire to do the business, and then the recommendations are brought before this body. But it's been clear to me that there has at least been concern expressed about that process, and that's what I'm seeking guidance on, is based on the recommendation of our appointed city attorney, who has analyzed this and works for other cities. He's saying it's not a problem, and so I need to know from council, if it is a problem, what would you like us to do? If it isn't a problem, so that's my concern, is because we don't know how to proceed. Our attorney is saying one thing, and then I'm having multiple conversations with other folks who don't agree with the attorney, and we're stuck in the middle, and we can't get our business done.
Just because a committee can meet in private doesn't mean it should. When a subset of council members is discussing and shaping recommendations on a significant issue like this, it raises legitimate questions about whether those discussions should be occurring in an open meeting. I think our residents expect transparency, especially when we're talking about spending their tax dollars.
And you don't think that transparency would come out when it went to council for the full discussion?
I think that council should be involved, the full council should be involved from the start, not a subset talking and mulling it over and then coming to council later.
Can I ask a clarifying question, Member Wickerman? Similar, that's exactly how we proceed with negotiations for a contract, is we don't have them in public. We have the discussion because there's a lot of information to absorb, and then after that happens, then the information is brought to council, and then it is discussed in public. And so I don't think that there's any desire or intention to not have a public conversation. It's the groundwork pieces in order to
on it going in.
Yeah. And
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
And Mark, if I can, just real quick, I don't want to step on it or anything. So were we incorrect by having the mayor and Mark talk about the labor agreement that was just approved with your recommendations? I mean, that's,
To me, that would be the same.
was that wrong? Or was that a subcommittee to talk about it? What, that just came to my mind on that. Did we do that?
so that therein lies the question, Councilmember Barrington,
Okay.
because this has been a practice for the city, going back to, there was appointees for the fire service committee, there was appointees for the public safety committee to look at resiliency wellness. This has always been the practice for commissions, and then this is at the interpretation of statute by our city attorney. And so council's, the staff is kind of in a pickle here, that this has been the practice, and so that's why I'm seeking guidance in terms of clarification, because we want to bring that information forward once those subcommittees have done work, and then in some cases, as I understand it, like with fire service or even with public safety, council has given that subcommittee some information, and then they've gone back and done some additional work. Like the fire service committee lasted a year, and then they come to the council and say, this is what we've discussed candidly, and then they've gone back and done additional work, because there's just not enough time on the clock to do all of those discussions, to include like all the interviews with commissions.
If I could just add, if you'll recall when this first came up, number one, I asked for this to be in a private meeting, and I was told that it could not be in a private meeting. So now I don't know why it's
Closed
now
session,
going into
closed-
a
closed
yeah,
session.
closed session.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm a little disappointed that transparency is the topic, and we're working so hard to not be transparent.
I disagree with that wholeheartedly.
No, we can disagree. If, you know, what is the downside to having this in an open meeting?
What's the downside to having the open discussion for as long as we want or need after that, like we have in all past practice?
I'm just saying, you know, we should all be invited to these discussions. And, you know, we talk about inclusion in this city. Where's the inclusion here? I want to be part of it.
You would be part
I
of it.
believe, at the tail end.
Can I add something?
Sure.
Is that okay? Is that right?
Sure.
I think that all of us bring a unique perspective to all the discussions that we're having. I think sometimes we land on the same things, but many times we don't. And so I think limiting policy discussions or city business limits it to, you're already forming this idea or this perception of what something's going to be before we've all had a chance to weigh in on it. So it sort of skews potentially, not saying that it always does, but could potentially skew where we land. And many times when we do have a committee that brings a recommendation to council, we just accept it. We don't even have really a discussion about it. We just say, no, if you guys decided that, we're gonna move forward with that. And I think that we need to have a more thorough discussion about some of the things. Maybe not all the things, and then where is that gray line? Like with getting someone into those commission seats.
Okay. What does staff want? A vote?
Well, we just talked about a whole bunch of things, and so it's still really confusing, you know, yes.
Do you mind if I just, can I take a shot at framing this a bit?
Go
Mr. Mayor?
for it.
So I think there's really two considerations. One's kind of within the other, right? On one hand, Councilmember Friedrich is raising a concern, policy level, about whether or not subgroups of the council should be used at all, right? Or generally, the way that they are now. And it is my opinion, and we may disagree on that, but it is my opinion that it is legal to do it the way you are, as long as the mayor said very succinctly, you're not empowering them to transact business. That is the language of the statute. So I think you're safe to do that should you choose. There's another policy decision in it that Councilmember Lanterman alluded to. Just because you can doesn't mean you have to. That's true.
Or should.
Right, and that's a policy decision that the council can make. I have opined that on this topic, a closed session is not appropriate because there isn't an exception that fits within the open meeting law. So your discussion choice is to have all of the discussion with no prep at a subgroup level as a group, or the original recommendation was to have two members gather and research, perhaps take questions and find out what those answers are, bring back for a broader discussion that can be as robust as the council chooses. It could be at a work session, it could be at a regularly scheduled meeting, it could be at a special meeting, but it has to be at an open meeting when you do that. And that does have to be a discussion involving all of you. So I don't think the intent is to shield from view, finding answers to these questions. The discussion can still take place and needs to take place with all of you. So I guess there's two questions that the council has to look at. Do we want to continue to use subgroups the way that we have and the way that, as I find most cities do, right? And usually for reasons of efficiency and productivity. But you can do it the other way. It's just going to involve some new protocols. You're going to have open meetings with these groups. You're going to have to stay away from each other at some of these events and things like that. Not social, but you know what I'm talking about as far as your liaison opportunity. But that's a decision you can make. On the other hand, you could say, no, we want to keep things the same way there, but on this issue, we want to treat it differently. That's another decision you can make. But I think the discussion was, do you want that liaison method that we've used numerous times throughout the years of having that group come back with, having gathered information and making recommendations for efficiency purposes, and then have the discussion as council. You can decide should that be at a work session or a regular meeting, your call. But to the mayor's point, that discussion always was intended to be at an open meeting. So I'd offer that. I'm happy to say.
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
I think that's very useful framing, John. I think it bears consideration the kind of discussion that needs to happen. So when I was involved with Councilor Bodema on the retention and recruitment incentive package, there was a fair bit of back and forth with Matt over potential ideas. We made plans for getting data, doing a survey to the officers, taking the data from that survey, doing a bunch of math on cost. It would have been very inefficient, I think, to try to do that at the council cadence every 2 weeks. What we did over the course of a month probably would have taken a year. I would imagine with the fire service, if you had done that in work sessions with the entire council, that would have been a 5-year project. So there's definitely an economy of scale where you want to get there's an inverse economy of scale. If there's too many people participating in framing an issue, you might not get to a recommendation in the time that you would want, and the decision that you make might be overcome by events by the time you actually get to make it. That said, I'm not sure if this is that kind of a policy discussion where you necessarily are going to have that kind of interaction, back and forth, data collection, analysis, rebuttal, and then decision. So I don't think we should take it out of our toolkit. I think it's absolutely appropriate in a lot of cases, especially when we're sort of plowing new ground and we have to collect information as we go to let us make a decision. I don't think that that can displace getting the broad ideas that the entire council will bring to a topic. And it probably shouldn't happen without council sort of discussing what they want the parameters of the subcommittee to be, drawing some boundaries around what issues they think need to be discussed, would, I think, hopefully allow everybody to get their ideas onto the agenda so that it's not just, you know, two people's ideas that are brought back, but they've vetted the perspectives of the others as well.
Could I make a recommendation?
Mark had a
Based on what I
comment,
just
and
heard.
I agree with you. Thank you. You said it better than I could. You know, I do see a difference between discussing long-term financial policies with interviewing candidates for Parks and Rec. And I think that the council should have the discretion to utilize these groups, but whether that's 2 people or 5 of us, but I think that we should have a say whether or not we want to participate in a specific discussion. You know, talking about a long-term policy that's going to result in the cost of tens of thousands of dollars, I think should be discussed by the full council. Interviewing, you know, a candidate, like I said, for Parks and Rec, the mayor can use discretion and say, hey, let's have this kind of a committee. We're interviewing these 3 people. That's fine. I don't have any issue with that. But when it comes to spending a ton of money, I just think that should come before the full council.
I don't disagree with you. I think maybe our point of disagreement is that I still think that fully will come to the full council.
If I can make, I think I have a proposed resolution.
Before that, I'm saying we should be involved in those initial discussions.
I mean, just like you could talk to another council member, one other council member, on an agenda item. I could have called Jeremy about the Northwest Trails Snowmobile Club grant sponsorship and discussed that with him, with one person.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I think I might, what's clear is we are not by any stretch trying to not be transparent. And so that's always, and to the mayor's point, any decision, the council makes the decisions, no 2 people are, and so, and then always I think staff has demonstrated a track record of responsiveness to anyone's questions. And so there has never been an avoidance of hard conversations or a lack of transparency. So I just want to make sure that's on the record for anybody who might get a misunderstanding of this. On this particular issue, what staff was seeking guidance on was if there was a question about our utilization of subgroups, which I've heard a majority of you now affirm we want to continue that practice. But if there wasn't that, our life would look a lot different because we would have to do, and I just had a friend who did an interview for a city, and they do have a personnel policy. It's the whole council, and so interviewing for a job, he got to sit in front of the whole council, and they have meetings on a different schedule than the council meetings in order to accommodate all of these excess requirements that go above and beyond normal council business. And to Mr. Thames, that's a prerogative that city chooses to do. Corcoran has historically chosen to be productive, and even when it involves a great deal of money, like the CBA negotiations, or what you're talking about for fire services contracting, or the public safety. So fundamentally, it's about trust. And what I hear is there's concerns as it relates to this particular policy. So this is my recommendation. I would recommend that council consider adding a work session to the May 28th agenda. And for that work session, part of the conversation is we brought forward one policy, but there's a lot of tentacles related to that policy. And that's what I didn't want to have happen within the constraints of a normal meeting. I wanted to have some space for us to talk about the nuances that are related to that one policy. And for us then to be able to hear some initial guidance so that we could bring it forward to frame it. No desire or intention to subvert discussion, but also out of sensitivity because of, and I've expressed this in emails to you, of how some staff are feeling about it, wanting to be careful about how we do that, just as we are careful about the wellness conversations, just as we are careful about other conversations. So I wanted to be intentional. And I think we can be intentional within a work session on May 28th, and then bring it in its totality forward. Not just one, but bring the whole shebang forward, the other things, the nuances that I was talking about. Because that gives us enough time. The reason we weren't bringing it forward then is we were not ready to have all of those other adjacent conversations. We haven't staffed all of them. That one was ready. And so we will hit delay on that in order to get the other conversations ready, and then we can have a work session if that's acceptable.
That work?
Can I add one more thing?
Sure.
I feel like we still need to have a fuller discussion about what that looks like for a policy, for when we do sit on it, or if it is just a council decision. Is that what we've decided? That if it's something that we think that all of us need to be a part of? For example, this what we're talking about right now, which we're gonna have a work session about.
I think one vector for that is just declining to create the subcommittee. So if there's a topic that comes up and everybody thinks that it should be subject to full discussion all the way through, we just don't vote to form one. I think there could be cases, like if we go back to revisit the comprehensive plan, you probably don't want to have everybody sit through every comprehensive plan aspect all the way through. You'll probably want to create subcommittees for topics around economic development and parks and wastewater planning and all of that stuff. But I think that's something you can decide on a case-by-case basis as you go.
Okay, so I have one more question then related to that, and maybe Mr. Thames or Mr. Mayor, you can answer this question. If the council formally sets up a committee, that becomes a quorum then. It doesn't matter who's on it. If you set up a formal committee, that becomes a public meeting. If council says we are electing to have this committee, board, whatever you want to call it.
So like that work session would be a public meeting? Yeah.
It would, exactly. But I'm talking in terms of if council sets something up with a committee and we say, and we vote on it, because that's what we should do, then that becomes a formal committee.
Are you
Right?
suggesting that the commission subgroups, like we were just discussing, fall into that same category?
Well, I'm just saying,
They couldn't vote on it.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, I think I understand the question.
Okay.
No, I don't think they do.
Okay.
I think you're tying that to, even with the creation of the unit, of the subgroup, whatever.
yeah,
And giving it a name, whatever else, does not in and of itself create a body that must hold only open
okay.
meetings.
It's what's
It-
discussed.
It's, are they transacting city business, right?
Okay.
So, and generally speaking, so you're looking at a quorum, or you're looking at them, they're empowered in some way. So for example, in reviewing the park board members or something like that,
Right.
if you empowered that subgroup to select the person, those meetings would have to be an open meeting. But because you're bringing back a recommendation for discussion, it doesn't. That's the deciding factor. I think Councilmember Nichols makes a great point about the timing of it. So one thing to consider is you'll have another larger decision point at the beginning of the year when you create your annual appointments, right? You're going to set all of your, what do we call them, subgroups, committees, commissions, whatever, right? They have designated titles and certain responsibilities, right? There is an expectation, and staff has the expectation, that you will run certain things through these groups before they come back up to the council, but they're not necessarily specifically empowered. I'm thinking personnel committees, things like this, right? But as you create a group, you can make that decision with each group. To Councilmember Nichols' point, like you did with this group, you can decide we either all want to be involved in this, or we'll allow a subgroup to bring us a recommendation. And so one thing, just to put the detail on that one is at the last meeting, the council did elect to do that. So we do have to clean that up. If the council is indicating a different direction, we should memorialize that as well.
How do you do that?
Well, we would just take a vote to hold the work session in lieu of the subcommittee. In other words, you can dissolve a subcommittee. I don't even know that you necessarily need to. I tend to believe the group that you created was an informal research group that you gave a name. So I don't know that you have to formally dissolve it, but the direction given to staff at the last meeting was meet with these two council members about this issue. If there's a change in direction, we should probably have that backed by a motion.
I'll make that motion, what he said.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I'm fine with either approach. I don't think there's a negative to doing it as a work session, but we just need to keep in mind that people will listen to that with different ears than we may intend. And so it would benefit everybody to be very circumspect in our language.
Yes.
Agreed. Okay, I'll call the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. 4-1. Okay. That passes. With that,
That's all for staff reports.
council reports. I had one thing. Wildflower Park, and I talked to Kevin about this a little beforehand. I only know this because my wife chewed me out, but the park, the Wildflower Park, the kind of top play area, the octagon area is kind of wobbly. It looks like maybe a couple bolts are loose. So if we could have someone go out there and take a look and tighten that up, that'd be great. So I don't get yelled at again. And I'm sure other families would appreciate it too.
That's not going to stop you from being yelled at.
That is true.
I just want to take this opportunity, if you guys notice something that's wrong, or residents know something that's wrong, please let us know. So you're our best eyes in years, so I want to thank the mayor's wife for making sure I got that message.
It might be good. Some cities have signs up with phone numbers to report issues with equipment. I know we're talking about a signage policy. That might be another element of content to include.
That is a good point.
Okay, any other council reports?
I have one more question.
Go for it.
This is totally unrelated. My daughter and I have to do ditch cleaning because we adopted a mile of 116. Can we drive a four-wheeler in the ditch to like strap a bucket to put the garbage in?
There are restrictions on county road right of ways on how you can operate them, but
Okay.
if you want to sit down and do a little analysis, see what
Okay.
can be done.
Okay, that sounds
Louis,
good.
I can
Thank
try to
you.
get you in touch with Kevin Anderson. He's the Public Works Commissioner, head of, on the board,
Okay.
Commissioner, that's in charge of Public Works. Anyway.
You to wear your orange outfit? And to say something.
Other than that,
The striped one.
I'll enter.
Three things, sorry, I'll make them quick. Address 10290 Bechtold Road. A new accessory building was put in last year or the year before. There's a significant amount of erosion happening around it, and it is traveling downstream. So I don't know if we do something related to planting grass or anything around that, but take a look at that. Upon my drive arounds and stuff, that's one that I've seen, and actually a neighbor called me on that one. Firearms Field Day, Saturday morning, April 25th.
Wish I could be there, please.
I
get
want
on
to
my
thank
list.
each and every one of the trainers and everything on that. It's going to be right here at City Hall and such. I plan on making it for
Please
that.
tell them.
April 25th?
25th.
Saturday.
This Saturday, quick timeline, the field day starts at 7:30 with student check-ins. The course begins at 8. If you are going to come, I would ask that you please notify staff so that they know that you're here, because it's a very tight ship that they run here, and so we want to make sure that you can get integrated.
I will be here, but only as a volunteer if they need me, otherwise I'll be.
Well, they'll help make sure that you're in the right place and
Okay.
see something. The field day will be complete about 11:30, and then lunch and awards are from 11:30 to 12:30.
You wouldn't need to come for the whole thing, if you want to just come see what it's all about, happy to kind of.
Well, let me hand out awards one time, that was fun.
Yeah,
I have
the
one
award ceremony is
more
great.
announcement.
It's really impressive to see what they accomplished. So it's much or as little as you want to consume. You have to do it.
I've been consumed by my work. I usually end up at Hope Church and spend a number of hours, but personal business has kept me very busy. And then cleanup day, May 2nd, put it on.
Yes, I'll be there as long as my flight's not delayed. Michelle?
One more announcement, just a reminder to our Corcoran residents that the tree pickup, the free giveaway tree pickup is this Saturday.
Yes. If I could, Mr. Mayor, a couple other council schedule things just to bring to attention. April 28th, public engagement open house at Public Works. And if we can get everybody there, important conversation. Cleanup Day was talking, our next one is May 6th at St. Therese. So these last two are coming up pretty quick. The surveys are out. We've had some folks, if someone wants an additional survey, they just contact the office, they can receive an additional survey. As of Monday, just 3 days in, we are already at 3% return. So that's very good. A request of council, can we add a work session on Friday, June 12th? And this would be my reason for the request. We visited 8 different sites as we were considering campus designs. And as we continue to work with BKV and Krauss-Anderson, staff has some impressions on particular nuances that it would be very beneficial for us to have you as decision makers come on site and see what we're talking about, because actually walking the space feels a lot different than looking at a picture or reading a report. And this decision is one of the biggest decisions that we have to make, or you have to make. And so having that informed, we did the big research on the 8 sites to make sure you don't have to go to all 8 sites, but we would like to target some things in particular so you understand why staff is making particular recommendations. And so the only way to do that is I looked at the schedule. That seems like the best, unless you have an alternative recommendation.
What time are you thinking?
So the recommendation would be in the morning from 8 to noon. I was trying to figure out how we could tuck it in before the 11th. Before our council meeting, and just realistically, I don't think we can make that work, as we're trying to coordinate with another agency to come and visit their site. And so I haven't lined this up yet. I wanted to get permission in order to schedule that before we did. But if we could get at least a quorum to come, I think it would be very beneficial for you all to see that.
Could we combine the work session with that day?
My recommendation would be that we eliminate the work session if
Gotcha.
we're able to do this.
Okay.
I can make that work.
I can.
Wait, eliminate it.
We'll eliminate the work session on June 11th, and this would become the civic campus conversation. And what would be great is we can go visit that, and then my desire would be that we come back and convene and get your feedback from what you saw, because that's what's really critical important, is that when it's fresh in your mind, that we get those notes as we're doing our work towards schematic design to ensure that we are moving in the direction that council wants us to move. So
8 to what time?
8. Right now, my recommendation would be 8 to 2, because we can go visit some sites and then come back and do some work afterwards. And if we get done early, nobody would be sad.
Okay. Right now, I think I'll have to be tentative, but I will do my best to try to free up my schedule that day.
You do have the advantage of having seen all the sites.
I do. I have done that, yes, that is true. So yeah, one way or another, I think we can
Okay.
make that work.
And any other concerns with that? All right, wonderful. Thank you. That's all I have.
And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.